Prayers. I will invite the member for Prospect to grace us with prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of Cabinet, ex officio members, members of the Legislative Assembly, the Chief Justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us, and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us, and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Proceedings are resumed.
Administration of oaths or affirmations.
None.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of messages and announcements.
I have received apologies for the absence of the Honourable Premier and the Honourable Attorney General.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Report of the Standing Finance Committee on the Supplementary Appropriation January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 and the Supplementary Appropriation January 2019 December 2019 Bill 2020 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Finance and Economic Development.
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 31st of July 2020 report of the Chairman of the Standing Finance Committee with the respect to the Supplementary Appropriation January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 and the Supplementary Appropriation January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020. These bills are in respect of the government's financial years that ended on the 31st of December 2018 and the 31st of December 2019.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister of Finance wish to speak thereto?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 64-7, the Standing Finance Committee agreed that I submit to this Honourable House the 31st of July 2020 report of the Standing Finance Committee that has just been tabled. The committee started its meetings on Wednesday the 29th of July 2020 and its last meeting was held this afternoon. This afternoon's meeting was not publicly broadcast, simply because the meeting merely involved the committee's review of its report and minutes that were prepared by the Clerk of the Legislative Assembly. Madam Speaker, the committee approved all of the items on the schedule to the supplementary appropriation January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 and did so without amending any of the items on the bill's schedule. The committee also approved the items on the schedule to the supplementary appropriation January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020, but did so with some amendments to the items on the schedule to the bill. Madam Speaker, as the proceedings of Finance Committee were and are publicly available, it is not necessary for me to elaborate any further on the committee's proceedings. The committee agreed that the report that has just been laid on the table of this Honourable House be the report of the Standing Finance Committee on the aforementioned bills. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions to Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet. The elected member from Newlands to ask the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Question number 36.
I call on the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Madam Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 in order for questions to be taken after 11 a.m.
The question is that Standing Order 2378 be suspended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 is suspended. The Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to ask question number 36 on the order paper, which reads as follows. To the Honourable Minister of Commerce, which reads as follows. Can the Honourable Minister say what are the Ministry's plans regarding the numerous LPP, land for public purposes, parcels across the Cayman Islands that are not maintained, not fit for purpose, and in some cases have become health and safety concerns for our communities?
Honourable Minister of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank the member for the question. Madam Speaker, the answer, it is for the developer or homeowners association to facilitate auxiliary amenities and or further improvements of LPP parcels for the benefit of those residing in the subdivision area.
Thank you. Sorry.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Minister for the answer. I wonder if you could say who is responsible for the enforcement of that requirement?
Honourable Minister of Commerce.
Madam Speaker, I don't think there's any, I thank the member for the question. I don't think there's any mechanisms after the property has been designated as LPP as far as redevelopment or maintaining of that. There are several laws, for instance, under the public health law or the planning law for the upkeep of properties, and quite often we have used those laws to force landowners, not just LPPs, but landowners to clean up the properties. One of the issues with the LPPs, Madam Speaker, is that quite often they are left in the name of the development company who developed the subdivision, and then they simply let the company fall away and don't have to pay the fees, and then 10 years later, by law, the property then becomes a part of the Crown, which leaves the government in an untenable situation of maintaining or taking possession of these properties. So Madam Speaker, there's no clear mechanism other than when if the property is held in a strata, or if the company holding the property title is up to date, then we can use other laws to enforce whether there's a garbage or refuge or the public health aspects of it, or from the planning perspective, keeping your property tidy. The government have from time to time worked along with homeowners associations, with stratas, with community groups to develop these properties or to assist them in developing the properties so that the community can use them. If the property is still held by an individual or by a company in good standing, then we would have to get permission from that company or individual for government to participate in the development of the plot. Or otherwise, if it's in the Crown, then the government have in the past assisted a homeowners association or a strata group in developing the properties.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, my understanding is that when these developers apply for planning permission, they're required to set aside a certain amount of land for LPP purposes. The reason for that is that these parcels would then be used by the community to enhance the community that they're actually building. Wouldn't it make sense to then change the law to require that before they can start selling properties or people can start occupying whatever development is being built, that these things be developed into what the original intention was, which is a park, and it doesn't have to be anything expensive, but something that can be used by the community, rather than what I'm seeing now, where we have huge parcels of land that are overgrown. People are dumping garbage on them. They're infested with rodents, and people living next to them are complaining. I mean, the purpose of the law was of the parcel was that why don't we make it so and put some enforcement in there, or at least make it a requirement before you start building that you have to do that. It seems like an easy solution.
Honourable Minister of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member. Madam Speaker, let me just first say that I agree with the member, and we are, through the Plan Cayman process, going through a series of amendments to the plan and the development law. And so certainly something I will ask my team to make a note about, that we will review it going forward. There is also the issue, as a member was speaking, and again, like I said, if there's any way that the government can help, certainly my Ministry of Assisted Persons in either clearing or developing the properties. We have run into issues in the past, as he spoke about the neighbors or the person next to it. Although buying the property, knowing that it was a land for LPP next to them, we've had issues where they have also objected to any parks being put there or anything that would create noise, or a basketball court or anything of the nature. So there's a lot of variables in the situation. But again, if the member can organize a community group and get permission from the landowners, we'd be happy to assist. And I take an undertaking to review the section of law that deals with LPPs as we go through this Plan Cayman process.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to thank the Minister for that response and that offer, and I will make good on that. Just one last one. Can these parcels be bought and sold?
Honorable Minister of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the development and planning regulations anticipate that there will be situations in which a subdivision has adequate land set aside for public purposes or a greater public benefit is derived from a cash payment in lieu of setting aside property for public purposes. In instances such as this, an applicant can apply to the Central Planning Authority, the CPA, to make a payment in lieu of designating land as LPP or to remove a LPP designation previously applied to an existing parcel. Regulation 28(2)(6) establishes a procedure for undertaking cash in lieu of payments. Monies derived from either options are utilized for the acquisition of private land for public purposes and the improvement of lands used for public purposes, including recreation centers, transportation routes, and public rights-of-way. So there is provisions under the law to purchase back or to sell the property, but then that has to be invested back into other land for public purposes or for the community.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister say if the current landowner or current company can sell the property to another individual?
So,
Honorable Minister of Commerce.
thank you. With fears of opening up other questions. So we have instances, Madam Chairman, because all of these LPPs have not been registered as yet. I think the process started when lands went online, but it has not been completed. So we've had instances where companies have been struck or went bankrupt, and the courts ended up with the LPP property and then sold it to private individuals. Then the private individual is unable to build on it because it's designated under the CPA as LPP, and they don't find out about that, Madam Speaker, until they actually apply to planning to build on the property, only to find out that the property is LPP. So we have had to deal with a few instances. In many of these instances, other properties have been designated LPP, or there have been instances where the government have property in the area and we move the designation to that property because of the confusion with the transfer of the land, or government will have to buy it back because it's usually at no fault of the purchaser under those circumstances. But in any event, whenever there is a transaction involving a piece of LP land for public purposes, it has to be replaced either by the proceeds from that event or by the individual buying it.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister elaborate on replace by the proceeds? I think I heard him say earlier that those proceeds will go to other public open spaces. The money is derived by the sale. Is it specific to the residential area or just generic public open spaces across the island?
Honorable Minister of Commerce.
It's quite a process. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to the members. Quite a process. First and foremost, the CPA would have to be, in the instance that the member is speaking to, the CPA would have to be convinced that there is enough LPP in the area or that there is adequate LPP for an outright sale or the purchase back of the property by the developer. And then the funds go into a government fund to be used for those purposes, but not restricted to the area. Because of, like I said, previous to that happening, the person would have had to prove to, and the CPA would have to be satisfied that there's already enough adequate LPP in the area.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I'm a bit confused now. When you say purchase back, are you saying purchasing it from the government or purchasing it from the landowner? Because the money, who's selling it, who's getting the money in these cases? Because if it's still in the name of the developer, that means they have to be the one selling it.
Honourable Minister of Commerce.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank the member for the question. In either way, whether it's an available parcel that had been struck by another previously, or if it is a developer who has developed the property and has provided enough adequate LPP in the area and has applied to the government to say, we have more than adequate LPP. The neighbors have said that they don't want LPP there, and we've polled the neighborhood. I would like to purchase that designation back, or purchase it back. So he would pay the value of the property to the government to remove the LPP designation, that he can develop it or use it as a right-of-way or anything else.
Member for Georgetown Central? No? You're good? Okay.
Then elected member for Georgetown Central to ask the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, question number 37.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to address the question standing my name on order paper to ask the Honourable Minister and Department of Minister for Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. But Madam Speaker, I would like to withdraw this question.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I wish to second the motion to withdraw the question.
The question is that question number 37 in the name of the member for Georgetown Central be withdrawn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Question number 37 is duly withdrawn.
Elected member for Georgetown Central to ask the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, question number 38.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to address question 38 on the order paper standing in my name to the Honourable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. And Madam Speaker, I would like to withdraw this question.
Is there a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
The question is that question number 38 in the name of the member for Georgetown Central be withdrawn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Question number 38 is duly withdrawn.
Statements by the Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet.
None.
Personal explanations.
None.
Obituary and other ceremonial speeches.
None.
Raising a matter of privileges.
None.
Government business. Bills. Third readings. The Supplementary Appropriation, January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020.
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriation, January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 be given a third reading and passed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriation, January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 be given a third reading and passed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The Supplementary Appropriation, January 2018 to December 2018 Bill 2020 has been read a third time and is passed.
Supplementary Appropriation, January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriation January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020 be, as amended during its Finance Committee review process, be given a third reading and passed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled the Supplementary Appropriation January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020 be given a third reading and passed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. The Supplementary Appropriation January 2019 to December 2019 Bill 2020 has been read a third time and is passed.
Other business, private member motions. Private member motion number 10 of 2019-2020. Motion on customs duty on liquor and fuels to be moved by the elected member for Northside.
Elected member for Northside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to move private members motion number 10 of 2019-2020. Motions on custom duty on liquor and fuels. Whereas all goods, merchandise, and all other items imported into the Cayman Islands except for fuels, gasoline and diesel, and alcohol for consumption are charged duty on cost of the goods plus insurance and freight. And whereas fuels and alcohol for consumption are charged on volume, and whereas this leads to discrimination against all residents who drink cheap liquor, and whereas fuel imported companies do not have to disclose the cost of the fuel being imported, which could lead to government losing revenue. Be it therefore resolved that government considers changing the Customs and Border Control law to bring equality to the way duty is charged on fuels and alcohol for consumption to be in line with all other imports, that is, cost, insurance, and freight.
Is there a seconder? I call on the member for Town West.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion brought by the member for Northside. Thank you.
The motion has been moved and is open for debate. Does the member for Northside wish to speak there too?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as the motion says, there are only two items that are imported into the Cayman Islands that are not charged customs duty on the cost of the items plus the insurance and freight at the rate set in the customs tariff law as a percentage of cost, insurance, and freight. These two items are fuels and liquor. Duties on these two items is based on volume. In the case of liquor, it is per liter, and fuel, it is per gallon. On liquor, it is $11.00 per liter for rums and $5.00 for wines. On fuels, it is 75 cents on all fuels except those used by CUC, which is 25 cents. Madam Speaker, unfortunately, I am unable to do any kind of detailed analysis or comparison on fuels, as it is a military secret what the fuel companies pay for fuel CIF. But I can do some analysis and comparison on what this flat rate of duty, not related to CIF, that is cost, insurance, and freight, does to the cost of liquor. Madam Speaker, on this analysis on 1 liter of liquor at various prices as it appears in the customs tariff law, in chapter 22 on page 48 of the bill. And Madam Speaker, if we look at 1 liter of rum, if I go overseas and I pay $4 for a liter of rum, And when I get to the airport, I have 3. I have to pay duty on 2. That duty rate is a flat $11.85. I've just rounded it up for ease of calculations to $11, but the tariff law, I think, is specifically $11.85. So, Madam Speaker, on that $4 bottle of rum, I pay $11 duty. That's 275% duty. But so the bottle of rum then cost me $15. If I was to pay the standard duty, which is 22%, I would only be paying 88 cents duty, so the bottle of rum would be $4.88. If I bought a $20 bottle of rum, it is the same $11 duty. So when I get to the airport, I pay the duty, it becomes $31. That's a 55% rate of duty that I'm paying on that 1 liter of alcohol. Under the standard 22% CIF, it would be $4.40. If I bought a $50 bottle of rum, the current duty rate is still $11. That's a 22%. And if I pay the standard duty rate, it would be $11. If I bought a $100 bottle of rum, the standard duty is still $11, which is 11%. Under the 22%, it would be $22. If I bought a $500 bottle of rum, it would still be $11 duty, which converts to 2% duty. And under the 22%, it would be $110. If I bought a $1,000 bottle of rum, and that's not outlandish in today's rum cost, it would still only be $11 duty, but which would be 1% duty, and the 22% duty, I would pay $220 duty. So on those 6 liters of rum, government is currently getting $66 for the flat rate of duty. At 22%, government would get $368.28. That's a shortfall of $300. Now, Madam Speaker, it might be argued that we get more of the cheap rums, but any too many rums you can buy in Cayman today that's less than $50 a bottle, if it got any quality to it at all. So, Madam Speaker, anybody who buys rum for less than $50 is paying more than the standard rate of duty for other items of 22%. And if you buy rum that is more expensive than $50, you're paying less and less and less duty. If we look at the way we handle tobacco, which is the other sin tax, cigars is 102%. So don't care what I pay for the box of cigars, it's 102%. If I pay $250 for a bottle of cigars, the cigars cost me $500, right? If I pay $1,000 for a box of cigars at 100% duty, box cost me $2,000. But not a situation because I bought a $1,000 box of cigars, I pay less duty than I pay on the $250 box of cigars. I'm not suggesting that the government should increase the duty on liquor to 100%, but that's what we've been trying to make the people in this country believe for years, that we tax liquor heavily. We're taxing the liquor that our people drink very heavily. They're paying 275%. But the liquor that the better off in our social economic are drinking, they're paying 1%, 2%, and that can't be fair. That's not the way, Madam Speaker, our system of consumption-based taxation is intended to work. On everything else in this country, if you buy an item, the more duty you pay, the more expensive the item is, the more duty you pay at the standard 22%. So, Madam Speaker, I think it is time for the government to look at this. And I'm not asking the government to increase the duty, But I believe if the government stuck to the 22%, the government would still get a lot more revenue than it's currently getting on a fixed flat rate of $11. Now, Madam Speaker, on the fuel side, I don't know whether it would increase the income to government, but it certainly would force the fuel companies to tell government what they pay for the fuel, first cost. It would force them to tell government what the cost of freight is, or getting transportation here, and whether they pay insurance it or not. And government, they would then have a ready comparison to see where the markup and where the profit is being made on fuels in the Cayman Islands. Because government could easily determine from an invoice what the fuel costs, including government duty. And I know the minister is an accountant himself, and he got good accountants working for him. It wouldn't take him long to balance the percentage at which we're going to import fuel to get the same 25 cents on the fuel. So I'm not asking government to increase the duty on fuel, but if we did it on a percentage basis, it forces the fuel companies to declare what they're paying for the fuel, and that seems to be the problem why we can't better regulate the fuel costs in Cayman. So, Madam Speaker, I'm asking the government to consider changing the format by which duty is cost on liquor and on fuel to a percentage of the cost plus insurance and freight. And Madam Speaker, I encourage all members to support the motion. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I call on the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is Friday, and it is late in the afternoon. Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon to respond on behalf of the government to the member for Northside's private member's motion number 10, 2019-2020 on customs duty on liquors and fuels. I have to thank the member for bringing this matter and highlighting it through this private member's motions. I've got to be honest, I learned something from him this evening. And I am grateful for you for what you have done in highlighting the issue. Madam Speaker, I am happy to say the government has considered the motion and we will accept it. And I know at this moment that there is a review actually taking place at this time with Customs and Border Control and with regard to the customs tariff law. And the intention is to have revisions to that that law, amended and amendments made and to be implemented before the end of the year. And so I'd say this would be one of the things that we would look at carefully before, in terms of making amendments to the law at this time. So I know too that there will be strong consultation between the Ministry of Finance, my ministry, and that of the Ministry of Employment and Border Control in trying to identify the proper way forward with this. But this is something that I firmly believe needs to be addressed and would be in the interests of the country and in the interest of the government to do so. So again, I thank the member and happy to accept the motion, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the member for Boddington West.
Thank you, sorry, Madam Speaker. I just rise to lend my support also to this motion, and I'm very happy to hear that the government is actually accepting the motion. When the member for Northside first brought this motion to my attention and asked me to second it, and I started doing my own review, I was a little bit surprised. And one of the things, just to put things in context, especially with regards to the issue of beverages, when you look at the tax system that we use here in Cayman, it is consumption-based, which is one of the closest you can have to a flat tax to some extent. We're not a manufacturing country, we're not a production company, and country, and as a result, we don't use stuff like VAT, and also we don't even look at sales tax, those kind of stuff. And one of the things, as with any tax system, you also have to look at how efficient the tax system is in terms of actually collecting revenues. 1 second. So from that standpoint, Madam Speaker, despite what people want to say about our tax system, it is still also an efficient way in terms of collecting revenues up front as goods are coming to the country and everything else at the 22%. When you look at the compendium of statistics and you look at, for example, on page 115 of the 2018 compendium of statistics, and you look at the beverages and tobacco that come into the country, you will see that the range between between 2012 and 2018, between 3.6% and 4% of the total amount of imports. But then when you actually look at the amount of duty that government collects on it, it is anywhere from 10 to maybe 12, 14, 15% some years. So even as a proportion of percentage of goods coming in, it is disproportionate to the other goods. In other words, government is charging a lot of duty on it. And as the member for Northside pointed out during his contribution, if people are drinking or the more inexpensive rum, they're in essence subsidizing the more expensive stuff. And the whole idea behind the consumption tax, it was a flat tax based on value. So in other words, what you consume is what you basically pay on. But those two issues, it is definitely a discrepancy within our system of taxation. Equally so with fuel. If you look at the fuel prices, which has stabilized over the last number of years, and one of the main things for that stability has been with the fuel industry fighting for survival. One second. Still recovering from this cough that won't go away, and I only get it when I come down here, Madam Speaker. I don't know what's down here, but you know, yeah, when I'm at home, I'm fine. But the thing about it is, we have seen some level of stability within the oil prices, and if you go back to the old issue when you had the fracking issue that was coming up, it is now in the best interest of the OPEC plus countries to keep oil at a certain price to basically stave off the rise in other alternatives to oil and to keep people dependent. So in other words, like anything else, you keep the price at a certain point, you can keep people dependent on it as opposed to trying to switch to something new. And if you look at the duty charge on the CUC fuel, the 25 cents that government collects, and you look at around the 130, 150 per gallon thereabouts, you realize that on the diesel side, the government is actually getting duty that is in line with around the 20% mark, anywhere from maybe 17% to maybe 22%, depends on the value of diesel at the time. But then if you look at gasoline itself, where, and I think we found out during the recent PSC from one of the wholesalers that the actual cost is about $1.50 CI a gallon when they actually purchase it. And by the time you add the 15 cents on, it's $1.65 landed here in terms of cost. That 75 cents that government charge on gasoline is roughly almost 45% of the actual value, which is twice what the government would actually do with regards to any other goods that was coming into the country. So it is a catch-22 because at the same time also, we have got to recognize that we don't have income tax, we don't have direct taxation, and the government still has to find ways in which to collect their revenues. And I think what the member from Northside motion is trying to do is normalize, I guess, the tax burden, because one of the things is, like we said, the objective of a consumption tax is to have some level of equality. It is, some countries don't like it because they basically say rich people do get away with it, because if they're paying goods on the they're paying tax on the goods that they consume. They're buying the same bread that you and I buying. They're buying the same milk, by the way, which is duty-free, and they're still ripping us off with it, but that's a different story. In essence, they're still paying the same tax because we're all buying in the same supermarket. We're all basically buying the same goods. I mean, maybe brands may differ a little bit. So it is something that's worth looking at. It is unfair to people who don't make as much as some people, and I don't think that was the purpose of what we look for within the tax system. But one of the things I will also encourage the government to do, Madam Speaker, is to put the list out of all the items that are actually duty-free. And when people in this country see that close to 100 items are duty-free, and then see what they're retailing for in the supermarkets and elsewhere, it is nothing short of criminal. So if there's anything that this exercise will start doing, is start to showing the high prices that some people are actually charging. And as bad as the government duty may sound, I'm going to be honest with you, Madam Speaker, when you do actually look at analysis, what some of the merchants are charging and marking up and getting away with it. And like I said, we have found that just recently in the PSC with regards to fuel, the 75 cents that the government is doing, what these guys are selling it for us for, they should be wearing masks and carrying guns because it's nothing short of robbery. So I am glad to support this motion, and I'm glad to see the government is willing to do this analysis. And I think it's about time we start changing the culture, not just of how we purchase things, but also at the same time, or we tax them in order for the country to survive. Excuse me, and make the revenue that it still needs to take care of the essential services that government provide. So with that, just wanted to add my contribution and thank the member for Northside for this, and also the Minister of Finance for accepting it on behalf of the government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? If not, does the mover wish to exercise his right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to thank the government for accepting the motion and trust the members for their support. Thank you.
The question now is, be it therefore resolved that government considers changing the Customs and Border Control law to bring equality to the way duty is charged on fuels and alcohol for consumption, to be in line with all other imports, that is cost, insurance, and freight. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. The ayes have it. Private member's motion number 10, 2019-2020 is duly passed.
Private member motion number 11 of 2019-2020, motion on fair trade and competition legislation, to be moved by the elected member for Northside.
Elected member for Northside.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I seek leave of the House to defer motion number 11 of 2019-2020, motion on fair trade and competition legislation, until the next meeting.
Is there a seconder?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the deferment of that motion as moved by the member for Northside.
The question now is private member's motion number 11, 2019-2020, be deferred until the next meeting of the House. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. The ayes have it. Private member's motion number 11, 2019-2020 is deferred until the next meeting of the House. I will now call on the Honourable Minister of Finance to move the adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise under the relevant standing orders to move the adjournment of this Honourable House sine die.
The question is, this House will now adjourn sine die. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. The ayes have it. This Honourable House stands adjourned sine die.
being considered. This is one of the functions that we work through the UK. So I've asked the UK IHR representative to consider. The representative for us for PAHO and the WHO to consider downgrading us to the next level, hopefully with a view to moving to none. But when we open our borders, I suspect that will not remain the case, because there will probably be 1 or 2 infections that pop up.
Okay. Probably be quite a lot more than 1 or 2 if we open the borders, I imagine. Okay, thank you very much for that, Dr. Lee.
Dr. Lee, thank you very much. Those are all the media questions at this stage. Let's go now to our panel. We begin with Premier the Honourable Alden McLaughlin. Sir?
Thank you, April. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It's been a long time, it seems. It's actually been 2 weeks since our last COVID-19 press briefing. And as Dr. Lee has indicated, we're happy to report that we've continued with our stated progress and are on track with our testing regime. I'm also very pleased that during the past 2 weeks, we've had only those 2 positive results, one of which was a traveler, and both are asymptomatic. Indeed, this progress is thanks to all of you, all of us here in Cayman, who have continued to play our respective part in maintaining social distance, continuing to wash our hands and wear our masks or cloth face coverings when out in public places where we can't adequately socially distance. As you're aware, we have been waiting at least 2 weeks between reopening phases to see what the effects have been of each reopening on the community and the incidence of COVID-19. Thankfully, we are in a very good place, I would say, probably the best place we've been in almost 4 months. And I'm comfortable moving forward with the easing of more of the regulations. The following changes will come into effect on Sunday, the 19th of July. From Sunday, 19th July, public meetings, the allowable number of persons will increase from 25 to 50. Managers or operators of restaurants or bars may permit customers to engage in dancing and karaoke, subject to appropriate social distancing. Nightclubs will be permitted to reopen with up to 50 patrons permitted at a time, and subject always to the rules relating to social distancing, which might be somewhat difficult when you're talking about dancing, especially soca or soul music, we used to call it. Shisha or water pipes, known as hookah pipes as well, are absolutely prohibited, given the public health risks of COVID-19 transmission associated with these and other similar devices. Weddings, from Sunday, weddings may have up to 50 persons in attendance, in addition to the bride, bridegroom, official witnesses, and the marriage officer. Funerals will also now be allowed to have up to 50 persons in attendance, in addition to the 6 pallbearers and essential mortuary staff and officiants. Persons will be able to visit residential care home facilities, for example, the Pines, providing they have had a negative PCR test within 3 days of visiting. We know residents of these homes are at the highest risk, so please maintain social distancing, wash your hands, and practice respiratory protocols. All contact sports will be permitted from Sunday, 19th July. Players and spectators will be treated as 2 separate groups or 2 separate bubbles because they inhabit 2 separate spaces. So we will be able to have up to 50 participants playing the sport and up to 50 spectators, providing those spectators maintain appropriate social distance. We have taken the advice of the Chief Medical Officer, who has carefully considered the request relating to the rental of scuba and snorkeling equipment, and he maintains that there are still significant public health risks associated with the rental of this type of equipment, and so there are no changes to the regulations at this time. Put another way, if you wish to scuba or snorkel, you need to use your own equipment. Persons who wish to travel by air between the islands will now be able to do so without having to take a test, providing they have been in the Cayman Islands for more than 2 weeks. In other words, Honor can go Cayman back without doing a test. Boating. Commercial boats will be able to carry up to 50% of their licensed capacity, not exceeding 50 people, providing social distancing is maintained. The gathering of boats will be able to take place now with up to 50 persons, and persons will be permitted to travel between the islands by boat for pleasure from Sunday. Restrictions still remain, though, with respect to access to Stingray City and the Sandbar, and only operators of commercial boats who have a Wildlife Interaction Zone license or a WIZ license will be permitted to access Stingray City and the Sandbar for the next little while. Access to Starfish Point and Rum Point remains prohibited for all vessels. I wish to explain the reasoning behind this. There's been a long-standing concern in the community about the way these areas of natural beauty have been managed. Government is taking this opportunity. That is the opportunity provided by the lockdown or restrictions on access to these areas, to consult with the Department of Environment as well as the Coast Guard and the Department of Commerce and Investment to discuss how management of these areas can be better monitored, better enforced, to provide a better experience for the wildlife, the residents of the area, and visitors. The current regulations will remain in effect until the 31st of August, 2020. So those are the changes, which, as I've indicated, will remain in effect from Sunday, the 19th of July, until the 31st of August, unless there's reason to make adjustments in the interim. Now I wish to provide a brief update on our support for small businesses. I am pleased to announce that the Cayman Islands Center for Business Development will open its doors to walk-in clients early next month. Since the launch of the government's relief measures for businesses in April, which is being managed by the center, 1,085 applications have been received under the Micro and Small Business Grant Program. $1,592,000 have so far been paid to applicants, with a further $386,000 approved for payment under the grant program. Of the 1,085 applications, 84% have been processed, with 347 business owners so far receiving full payment of $3,000. Based on the number of approved applications, the total funds so far committed by government is $3.147 million. The program currently has a 97% application approval rate. 73 applications with a total value of $2,451,000 have been received under the low-interest loan program. 11 of these have so far been approved, with another 7 currently being assessed for approval. The total value of loans at the approval stage is $615,000. For the benefit of those applicants who are unable to adequately present their financials to the bank, the government has implemented a technical assistance program where qualified accountants have been employed to help prepare these documents at no cost to the small business owners. So far, they have prepared financial statements and business plans for 42 loan applicants. Finally, I just want to say that it is a delight to have the Deputy Premier and Minister for Tourism back with us after 3 months of confinement in Cayman Brac, and we will have him with us during this presentation. I think everyone will want to listen very carefully to the government's plans for the phased reopening of our borders starting in September. And I think most people will be quite impressed by the degree of care and the great deal of thought that has gone on and that is going on with respect to how we can safely reopen these islands to business, to commercial business and tourism. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Now to His Excellency the Governor.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's good to be back with you again. I think the results do remain extremely encouraging, and I hope everybody welcomes the further relaxation of measures. Only 2 positives in July and over 3,000 tests, so that is a really good place to be. And we've now conducted an impressive 27,000 tests. So I think we can say again that the strategy of being followed by the Premier and his government is an outstanding success, and we're all determined to make sure that we maintain that. And we should all be thankful that we live in one of the safest places in the world just now. Sadly, that is not the case in other parts of the world, and particularly the US. 77,000 cases yesterday, a record, and there were many deaths, sadly, in Florida. And so my key message is really that we should not let our guard down. Our success shouldn't lead to a false sense of security. And we all need to continue with the social distancing, the basic hygiene, washing our hands regularly, and wearing masks in public places. And as we've said before, these are good practices that will keep us safe until a vaccine is developed, and they will protect our vulnerable and our elderly. And I thought the Chief Medical Officer's example of the drop in sort of respiratory illnesses from these very measures was a really important signal to all of us of how important they are. And I believe that our handling of this pandemic is already giving confidence internationally to Cayman's reputation and its good governance. And that will be a key element in our narrative in building back more strongly. But of course, locking down is easier than opening up. And the US situation does demand maximum caution on any reopening of our borders. But if we can get that right, cautious, gradual, phased, not rushed, we can avoid having to do what many others who have opened too quickly have had to do, being forced to lock back down again. And if we succeed, it will help build an even stronger narrative about Cayman as a successful, highly effective, and very well managed jurisdiction. In that context, I also very much welcome the work of the Reopening the Borders Committee, chaired by our excellent Deputy Premier. That's progressing really well, and I look forward to hearing the presentation shortly from the Deputy Premier. In the meantime, we continue to provide emergency travel options to a range of destinations, and I'm pleased to say at last we've made some good progress on Nicaragua, and I hope to get agreement to operate a flight to Managua very soon. There's also another flight to Manila via London on 28th of July. That will be full, and that's for Filipino nationals. And there's the further flight to London on the 31st of August, also for students and families. So that's all in good shape. And finally, on travel, I know that Travel Time are working very closely with Cayman Airways on additional flights to Jamaica, Canada, and Miami. I just want to say a quick word about the Cayman Regiment, particularly how we're managing the COVID risks. The Premier and I are working very closely together on the Cayman Regiment, and next Thursday we'll see the arrival of a Royal Air Force Voyager aircraft from the UK. This large aircraft will be bringing the training team, which will conduct the initial training for the regiment, and will also deliver the kit and the uniforms provided by the UK. The aircraft will only be here for a couple of hours, and the crew will remain airside. The training team has been in quarantine in the UK and will do a further period of quarantine in Cayman. They'll also be tested for COVID before leaving their base in the UK. So in consultation with Dr. Lee, we are taking absolutely no risks with that team. The recruitment for the regiment is going extremely well. We have our first 50 reservists identified, and the vast majority are Caymanians. They've been interviewed and have undertaken fitness tests, and the training course will commence on the 3rd of August and run for 2 weeks. Our 5 officer cadets have been doing really well at Sandhurst and are now in their final week of training. They're due to pass out or graduate next Thursday and will be returning to Cayman on one of the BA Airbridge flights. We can be very proud of how they performed and represented our islands on this prestigious course. So to Theo, Shanice, Jonassi, Halston and Gabby, we are very proud of what you have achieved. And then finally today, I'm sure everyone will join with me in wishing Her Royal Highness the Duke of Cornwall a very happy 73rd birthday. I think we all fondly recall the visit by the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall here last year, which was a truly wonderful occasion. So many happy returns, the Duchess of Cornwall. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Seymour?
Thank you, April. Good afternoon, everyone. Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, and our Caymanian families overseas. Happy Friday to all. Thank you for tuning in. Governor, I can tell you that the Nicaraguans are very pleased with the way that the Cayman Islands is helping them and doing to assist. I've heard that personally.
Yeah.
This week has been 4 months, actually, since we shut down, and everything is still looking nicely here in the Cayman Islands. You must know we're proud of our achievements in keeping the people of the Cayman Islands safe and would not make any decisions that would jeopardize our hard work. That is why we have waited patiently before opening our borders and has maintained our testing programs and our quarantine measures. By now, in a regular year, most would have been on their long-awaited family vacation. And whilst we recognize this is unable to happen because the coronavirus is still rampant in so many countries,